You know, right now inside of you, there's a hidden world, a bustling ecosystem. It's your gut microbiome. And what you choose to eat has a direct and really powerful effect on it. Today, we're going to dive in and explain exactly how that works.
So let's start with a number that is, well, it's pretty mind-boggling. Trillions. That's roughly how many tiny organisms, we're talking bacteria, viruses, and fungi, are living on and inside of you at this very moment. It's this massive, microscopic community.
So, that leads us to the big question, right? With literally trillions of these allies living inside you, are you feeding them what they need to thrive? The answer could honestly change your health.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll explore the world inside you. Then, we'll get into the diet-gut connection and uncover the power of fiber. After that, we'll give you a shopping list of your gut's favorite foods, and we'll wrap it all up with why you should trust your gut.
Okay, let's jump right into section 1. It's time to get properly introduced to your gut microbiome.
So, what is this thing exactly? Well, the best way to think about your gut microbiome is as a rich, living ecosystem. Seriously, picture a vibrant rainforest, just teeming with all kinds of different life, all working together to perform this huge variety of functions that are absolutely essential for our bodies.
And I mean, these functions are critical. These little microbes are total workhorses. They break down the parts of food that our bodies just can't handle on their own. They actually produce vital nutrients for us. They help train and regulate our immune system, and they even act like a security force, protecting us from harmful germs.
So, if you remember just one thing about keeping this inner world healthy, let it be this: the #1 goal is diversity. Just like in any ecosystem, right? A wide variety of species makes the whole system stronger, more resilient, and healthier overall.
Which begs the question, how do we get that diversity? Well, that brings us perfectly into our next section, the diet-gut connection. And this is the #1 factor that you actually have control over. You know, a whole bunch of things can shape your personal microbiome. Where you live, medications you take like antibiotics, and even how you were born can all play a role. But the research is becoming super clear that diet is one of the most powerful influences of all, and it's the one we can change, literally meal by meal.
And that leads us to the undisputed hero of our story today. Section 3, the power of fiber. This stuff is the absolute superfuel for your gut.
It really is that simple. Dietary fiber, and we're talking about the kind you get from things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, and whole grains, is the absolute best fuel for your gut bacteria. It's what they're designed to eat. It's what they crave.
See, when your gut bacteria get to feast on all that fiber, they produce these amazing things called short-chain fatty acids. And these compounds are like liquid gold for your health. They actually nourish the lining of your gut, they help improve your immune function, and they fight inflammation, which we know can reduce the risk of certain cancers.
Now check this out. There was this incredible study that shows this in action. Researchers took 2 groups of people with totally different diets. One group was rural South Africans who ate a traditional, really high-fiber diet. The other group was African Americans eating a typical Western diet, lower in fiber, higher in fat. And then they had them swap diets.
And here's the most stunning part of the whole thing. It only took 2 weeks. That's it. Just 14 days to see fundamental changes in their gut environment.
So for the rural Africans who switched over to the Western diet, the results were pretty alarming. In just those 2 weeks, they saw a jump in inflammation markers in their colon. And they had a decrease in this super protective acid called butyrate, which is the one that's linked to a lower risk of colon cancer. Meanwhile, what about the African Americans who switched to the high-fiber diet? You guessed it, the exact opposite happened. Their inflammation markers went down, and their levels of those awesome protective fatty acids went up. It's just a crazy powerful example of how quickly our bodies can respond to what we feed them.
Okay, so we've seen the science. Now let's get down to the practical stuff. Section 4 is all about your gut's favorite foods. This is your toolkit for building a healthier microbiome starting today.
So what should you be adding to your shopping list? Well, studies have found clear links between certain foods and that all-important bacterial diversity. The winners include fruits and vegetables, no surprise there, but also tea, coffee, red wine, and even dark chocolate. So what do they all have in common? They're packed with these beneficial compounds called polyphenols.
Now, on the flip side, some foods were linked with a drop in diversity. And the 2 main culprits that the research pointed to were foods high in dairy fat, like whole milk, and sugar-sweetened sodas.
Okay, so besides fiber, there's another major player in this whole game, probiotics.
And these are really simple. They're just live, helpful bacteria that you can add to your gut's team by eating certain foods, especially fermented ones.
Fermented foods are probiotic powerhouses. We're talking about things like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh, and kombucha. Yogurt can be great too, but here's a little pro tip. You've got to read the label. To get the real benefit, you want to look for brands that are low in sugar and specifically say they have high counts of live bacteria.
And here's one final tip that's easy to forget. How you cook your food actually matters. Foods that are minimally processed tend to keep more of their fiber intact, providing better fuel. So that means lightly steamed, sautéed, or even raw veggies are usually going to be more beneficial for your gut microbes than, say, deep-fried dishes.
All right, this all brings us to our final and maybe the most important section. Trust your gut. Because when it comes right down to it, you are the architect of your own microbiome. You have the power to build a healthier inner world.
So, what's the bottom line? While this is a field of science that's always evolving, the main principle is actually pretty clear and incredibly empowering. It really boils down to this. Fill up on fibers, fresh foods, and fermented foods, and you can trust your gut to keep you going strong. The power is literally on your plate.